Good morning, everybody, and welcome back again to BPS. I hope you all are doing fine, and since your exams are quite near, you don't have much time. So, I hope you all have prepared well for your exam. Now, since all of you know, we bring up the weekly newspaper analysis, and you can follow us every Sunday at 7 a.m. Okay, and this week we are going to do all the important news and the editorials from 29th of June to the 5th of July. Okay, so on the 29th of June, we have something of an achievement, which is ASME's astrophysicists and colleagues discovered gamma ray, which is known as the Catherine's wheel. Now, where they have discovered, now Professor Dhurbajyoti Saikia and Professor Vedehi S. Palia have discovered a collisional ring galaxy system, which is in about 30 million light years from the Milky Way, and it is known as the Catherine's wheel. Now, this is a big achievement for astrophysicists of Assam. Now, on the technology sector, Assam startup working on the pitha making machine. Now, this news, if you see, you don't have much to discuss here, but there is an overall a scene which you must understand. Now, an interaction at the 2-day skilling program organized for startups by the National Assam Startup working on the pitha making machine, and growing significance of AI highlighted at Startup Skilling Program Institute of the Electronics and Information Technology. Okay, now if there is a question which asks you to make a comparison between the Startup India and the Startup Assam, you will see the Startup Assam is very much lacking. Now, we have if you make a complete analysis of the Startup Assam, you will not find many startups growing year by year, because there is, first of all, there is a lack of financial crunch, there is a lack of finance, there is a lack of funding, and then there is also not enough entrepreneurs, and also we don't have that much of vigor to come forward and do something, okay, and do something different rather than go for any kind of jobs. Now, these two startups, they are working on developing a pitha making machine. Now, you see, in terms of the pitha making machine, if you see the market of it, we have a custom, we have a culture called Bihu, and in that Bihu, what we do is we associate ourselves with a lot of cultural festivities and also a lot of delicacies. Now, if you compare this with an urban area, let's say a city like Guwahati, people have to rely on outside source to provide them pitha. Okay, and now since these are actually made by let's say some self-help groups, or small household, what they do, they make all these uh, the the pithas and all. Now, if we have to market it, let's say all over Assam and all over India, we need machines, we need a startup idea, and we need a way to promote our culture and promote our food delicacies. So for that, we will need a startup idea which will promote culture and which will promote our own indigenous food, and also it is going to bring a lot of economic avenues for the state of Assam as well. Now, the Startup Catalyst program held at Assam Startup The Nest here is aimed at bolstering the startup ecosystem in Northeast India. Okay, now I will give you one question here. You have to make an comparative analysis of the Startup India program with that of the Startup Assam program. Now, infrastructure, progress on Jal Jeevan Mission. Now, PhD Minister Jayanta Mallaborwa reviewed the progress of Jal Jeevan Mission Assam during the 2-day workshop held at Assam Administrative Staff College. Now, what is the important point? An MOU between JJM and Argyam, a charitable trust based in Bangalore, was also signed in the presence of PhD Minister. Now, according to the press release, Assam has already provided 56,98,517 functional household tap connections to 79.62% of the rural household. Now, this data is important for you, because if you have to make a deep analysis of what the rural sector is going through, or what the schemes is going through, so the government schemes of providing tap water to the villages, now you can see that almost 79.62% of the rural household in the state have received this services. Now there is a looming question. The question is whether the beneficiary has been rightly identified or not. Now that is a question, and for that, when you write your answer, you have to include these aspects as well. You cannot merely rely on a data and write your answers based on that data. You have to question that data aspect as well. Now you can see, now there are 79.62% of the household that have actually received. Now that is a good news in terms of the schemes which wanted to provide tap water facilities to a lot of rural villages. Now whether the beneficiaries have been rightly identified or not, that remains a question. So when you write an answer, you also have to give about what other scenarios can be possible. Right. Now, Jal Jeevan Mission Assam has rolled out a number of initiatives to expedite the process of achieving the target of 100% FHTCs in the rural areas, and to support activities like Jal Doot involvement of school students, involvement of SSGs under SLARM as field level support agencies. Now, what the government is doing right here is that they are using the self-help group as a medium to expedite this kind of a process, because self-help groups are what they are basically ladies who form their own group like a cooperative society, and who does a lot of entrepreneur things. They do their own initiatives, they take their own initiatives for some kind of socio-economic development of the region, of their own group. Now when government is using the help of these people who are in the SHGs, they have a better reach of the villagers, because they know who is the right beneficiary, who is not the right beneficiary, where do they have to go. So it becomes easier for the government to expedite the process. Now this is a good thing that the government has done. Okay, now JJM Assam has also signed an MOU with NHM Assam to take help of the Ashas for spreading the message of sustainability. Now they have taken the help of SHGs, and they have also taken the help of Ashas of the schemes, and to ensure involvement of the beneficiaries towards the operation and maintenance. Now when we see that a scheme has been launched by the government, right when the scheme has been launched, the first problem that creeps out generally is the problem of the identifying the right beneficiary, and secondly is the problem of awareness. People are not aware of the schemes that the government has been providing, because people generally in the village areas, they don't talk about all these things. They are not in a state to go and discuss somewhere. They are not in a state to go and be present in some kind of a public meeting. They are not in a position to understand it. So it becomes very easy for the state also to spread awareness about a particular scheme when the local workforce is being employed to do that. Okay, now geography and geology, we have a very important article which was monitoring of the micro earthquakes. Now earthquakes with a magnitude of 3 or less on the Richter scale are called micro earthquakes. So on the Richter scale, if you measure an earthquake, if you see that the scale has only marked it as 3 or below 3, that is called as a minor earthquake. In Assam, generally we have a very minor earthquake. We just have some sort of tectonic shakes, and that's it. It's not majority of the times it's not very disturbing, and majority of the times it is not very devastating. In 1941, famous seismologist Benno Gutenberg and his colleague Charles Francis Richter, while doing research on quakes at the California Institute of Technology, developed of proven and groundbreaking formula for the size of different earthquakes. They found that the rate of earthquake occurrences increases gradually when the size of the quakes decreases. Okay, so let's say if the size of the earthquake, if it decreases, so they have found a correlation between the size of the earthquake and the frequency of the earthquake. Now what the research is saying, that if the size of the earthquake is a micro earthquake, if it is below 3, then the frequency of such earthquake is going to continue more and more. That means often it is going to happen. Now in Assam also, we have seen that many a times we feel quakes, maybe in a month, okay, sometimes thrice in a month, sometimes twice in a month. So the frequency is increasing because the intensity of the earthquake is very low. But in case, let's say the same thing, they also found a correlation, like let's say if the size of the earthquake is big, if it is a macro earthquake, then the frequency of the earthquake will also decrease. Okay, if the size or the magnitude of an earthquake decreases by 1 unit, the number of earthquake increases tenfold for each decrease of 1 magnitude unit. So the research was very important in what it pointed out, that if the magnitude of the earthquake is decreasing by even 1 unit, let's say it has reduced from 3 to 2, then in that case the frequency of minor earthquake will increase even tenfold. Okay, if it used to happen maybe twice a month, now it might even happen 10 times a month. Okay, it will increase tenfold. The background seismicity of a region is determined by the data collected during continuous monitoring of micro earthquakes for a few days to a few months. Now, such types of studies by recording small earthquake can be very fruitful in delineating the subsurface active faults associated with neotectonic activities and the areas vulnerable to large earthquakes. Now, a network of several seismic recorders has been used to acquire the microseismic data for the preparation of seismic hazard zonation maps, which may be helpful for the common people and the government in preparing for earthquake disasters and to see how the mitigation measures can be taken. After a major quake, a large number of very small magnitude or minor earthquakes occur for several days or months. In seismological terms, this is known as aftershock effect. So you will see if there is a major earthquake which has happened. So after the major earthquake, there will be a lot of minor earthquakes which will take which is going to happen in the few days succeeding the major earthquake. So this is known as the aftershock effect. Okay. Now, induced seismicity refers to typically minor or low magnitude earthquakes and tremors caused by human activities that alter the stresses and strains on the earth's crust. Now, this is important. Why? Because what the research has found, that means induced seismicity, that means something minor earthquakes can be induced as well. Okay, minor earthquakes can be human induced as well, because if human activities, lot of human activities, let's say mining and those kind of things, can alter and put strain on the earth's crust. Induced seismicity mostly has a low magnitude. Okay, let's say if there is a human activity, let's say building of a dam. So building of a dam can actually induce a lot of minor earthquakes in a particular region, but its magnitude, since it is a minor earthquake, it is going to have a low magnitude. Now, induced earthquakes are mainly caused by construction of dams on rivers, underground mining, nuclear explosions, and continuous injection of fluid in deep drilling sites at high pressure. So let's say, for example, if somebody is extracting oil, so to extract oil you will have to put a lot of fluid, you have to inject a lot of fluid as a deep drilling sites and a very high pressure. So such kind of strains can also put a lot of pressure on the earth's crust, so it might have a human induced low magnitude earthquake. Now, seismologists have found that the construction of large reservoirs is very sensitive to earthquake. That means you have to construct reservoirs. So if you are constructing reservoirs, then your place or your area is very susceptible to earthquakes. It's very sensitive to the earthquake. Now, this is something which is very new in the study of the seismology, and also the government or the countries must be very sensitive in building reservoirs and dams. Now, as you all know, China is supposedly building a dam over the Brahmaputra river, over the Siang river. So this is going to make a very huge impact on Assam and even on Assam and the adjoining areas like the Arunachal Pradesh. Now, these kind of reservoirs and dams, they actually put a strain on the earth's crust and can induce a very low magnitude earthquakes. Therefore, there has been a lot of concern about reservoir induced seismicity since the middle of 20th century, especially after the Konya earthquake in Maharashtra in 1967. Okay. Next, we have politics and law. Now, protection of Manipur's territorial integrity. Now, massive rally which was dubbed as Manipur Kanba brought the Manipur capital to a standstill today as thousands of people protested against the government's alleged failure to address their plight in the wake of the ongoing ethnic conflict. Now, this ethnic conflict of Manipur, you can see a very much roar in the parliament also, in the Lok Sabha also, in the Rajya Sabha also, that people are questioning the other representatives. The opposition is questioning the Prime Minister's involvement, the Prime Minister's reaction to the Manipur crisis, that he has not given very sensitive reaction to the Manipur crisis, and he's been questioned for that. Now there's a huge rally known as the Manipur Konba, which is known as Save Manipur. Now it is under the aegis of the Coordinating Committee on Manipur Integrity. Now members of civil society organization like Mira Pebis, mothers and students bodies, and a few MLA joined the members of the public in the rally. Now what is happening? Now the main point of contest of the ethnic clash is the point where the ethnic clash has actually come up is because of a lot of illegal immigration from Myanmar. Now there are now a lot of I had made a video on this, like how the tribes had been separated since the British annexation of Burma, and now the tribes that are living in Manipur, the Kuki tribes, now they are spread out all over the Southeast Asia. Now majority of them live in Myanmar, majority and a few of them live in Manipur. Now what is happening is that because of Myanmar's political situation, lot of Kuki, what they are doing is they are traveling back to Manipur. They are going and they are finding a land for themselves. And then there are also tribes of the other regions, like say for example Mizoram and also from Nagaland. Now these tribes have been divided between countries because of a very bad British policy. Now this is the main reason why the ethnic clashes have been continuing so far. Now overall why the ethnic clash of Manipur happened, but the root of the cause, the root of the crux, the root of the cause is actually the illegal immigration from Myanmar. Okay, now both the tribes, the Kuki and the Meitei, both of them have their difference of opinion regarding the immigration problem from Myanmar. Now research and the medicine. Patanjali's Thyrogrid published in clinical in a clinical phytoscience. Now what is Thyrogrid? Hypothyroidism is becoming a prevalent condition worldwide, leading to severe side effects such as heart disease, infertility, and impaired brain development in children. Now hyperthyroidism. In the modern medicine system, the primary treatment of this widespread yet alarming ailment is hormonal replacement therapy. So if you are placed under hormonal replacement therapy, it's a very expensive therapy also, plus you have to continue this for a lifelong period. Right, you have to continue this for a lifelong period. Let's say for example, nowadays when people are changing their sex, from male to female, whatever the type of body that they want, so these people are put under the hormonal replacement therapy. Now this is first of all very expensive, and secondly, what happens, in spite of being expensive also, it is a very long process. You have to continue this for a longer period of time. Now what is happening in modern medicine system, the primary treatment is only about the hormonal replacement therapy. Now Patanjali developed a herbal medicine called the Thyrogrid, which is based on the extensive and ancient science of Ayurveda. Now anti-terrorism. Now FATF hails India's efforts in combating terror funding. Now why? Because India has achieved remarkable success in the mutual evaluation conducted by FATF during 2023 and 24. India has achieved a commendable level of technical compliance with Financial Action Task Force requirements and its efforts in anti-money laundering, countering terrorist financing, and countering the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. Okay, so India has again been praised by the FATF for the control of the terror funding. The Mutual Evaluation Report of India, adopted at a FATF plenary in Singapore from June 26 to June 28, categorizes India under regular follow-up and a distinction held by other 4 G20 countries. This milestone underscores India's significant strides in combating money laundering and terror financing. Okay. Now, FATF has acknowledged India's efforts in several areas, including addressing risk associated with money laundering and terrorist financing, particularly concerning the laundering of proceeds from corruption, fraud, and organized crime, and implementing effective measures to shift from a cash base to a FATF hails India's efforts in combating terror funding. Now, India's performance in the FATF mutual evaluation, it tries to bring substantial benefits to its burgeoning economy, showcasing its stability and integrity of its financial system. Now, on the 30th of June, we have India wins the T20 World Cup again against South Africa in Bridgeton in Barbados. So, this is a news I think everybody of you know. You don't need to be educated on this. Now there is a very important article which is the education and the policy, which is NEP 2020. Now the nation's first education policy of the 21st century has set out lofty goals seeking to effect a comprehensive reform in the education from 2020 primary to higher education part is going to be critical to aim at value-based education, skill levels, it's the impulse success, NEP development, and the integration of digital technology as it promises to usher in a new era of educational excellence. So that day I was also reading something on the NEP, and what the report was saying that national education policy is a very ambitious project. So if you're able to succeed in properly implementing the system, India's education system is going to make a rebound. It is going to bring much more value to the entire economy of the country, to the entire social asset and the population asset, because now we are only getting merely literate. We just need to know, we just learn how to read and write. But actually, if the NEP is placed properly, if we are successful in implementing the whole national education policy, then we will be able to create not only people who are literate, but we will be able to create a very productive workforce. Okay, we'll be able to create lot of entrepreneurs, we'll be able to create lot of skill based people, and that is going to boost the economy a lot. That is going to solve a lot of socio-economic crisis in our country. Now, but the problem is, what the problem I have seen now, they are implementing this NEP at the different level, on the primary stage, at the school level, at the college level, at the university level. The problem is, one part of the NEP, the very important part of the national education policy, is the teachers. Now, first of all, in order to implement national education policy, you must train the teachers. If the teachers do not understand the requirement of the national education policy, if they are not able to frame the curriculum on that sort, then this entire national education policy will be a complete failure. So it becomes very imperative to train the teachers first, to train the policymakers first, and also to train the school administration first, like what the school administration is going to adopt for the skill development. Now it basically, for example, in the college sectors, you need to score certain credit in the field of the skill education. Now what sort of skill is going to be provided by the college, whether the college is going to provide the skill, whether the student himself needs to go and learn somewhere, what kind of credit they are going to give, what kind of particular skill they are going to introduce, what skills can be more productive for the future. So these are certain technical questions that needs to be addressed by the school administration itself. Okay, now the problem will now the basic problem is going to arise because the teachers are not well trained in this. The school administration does not understand the requirement of the national education policy, and it is a very ambitious project, and in order to implement this ambitious project, everybody which is a part of the education system must be trained. So if you are not able to train the people involved in these sectors of education, it is not going to bring the top down effect. That means the top down effect means when you are introducing something at the top level, it has to come down at the bottom level. Now at the top level, if there are teachers and the school administration, if they do not understand the requirement of the national education policy, it is not going to come down to the bottom level. Okay. Now, structural changes apart, addressing the concerns hampering the qualitative growth in school education brooks no delay. Now, there is a lack of quality in our schools because we have ourselves seen that school education is only merely providing you the literacy. They are only teaching you how to read and write, but they are not providing you the quality education. By quality, I do not mean that you learn all your physics questions correctly. By quality, I do not mean that you must learn your mathematics correctly. But by school education, by quality education, the purpose of the education is to make you a good human being, to make you a productive resource. But the school education is not able to make you a productive resource. They are merely counting your quality by numbers. They are just judging you by numbers. That means this is the number you have scored in your physics paper. That means you are a good student. But that does not mean that that student is going to be a good productive resource for the country. So this qualitative aspect of the education must be highlighted. And this is a major structural change that we need to incorporate in our education system. Now, there is one thing that is also being given here is a streamlining the education sector at every level will understandably be a huge challenge, not just because of the magnitude of the problems, but also due to the sheer size and diversity of the country's education sector. Okay, now country's education sector is very different. It is very varied. You cannot compare private education with the government education. You cannot compare the rural education with that of a urban education. Every place has their different way of teaching. Now, there is a diversity of the educational sector. Not even one, just because we have the state board, we have a different central boards. So all these boards, they always develop different curriculum in their school education. So this is a main problem which we have been facing over our education system. But nevertheless, in order to implement national education policy, the school itself must know what are the skills that they need to incorporate in the teaching learning method. Okay. Now, in Assam, the lack of competent or trained teachers have been a perennial issue for schools, sometimes laid bare time and again by periodical assessment on the status of school education in the qualitative aspects. The Guna Utsav. From the Guna Utsav reports, we can see that a lot of school education, they are very poor. They are very poor in providing even basic education to their students. They are not even able to make their students pass in the school. They are not even able to pass the 10th standard. Why? Because the quality of the education, the quality of the literacy provided by the teachers is very, very low. So when the qualitative aspect itself is such low, you cannot expect the teacher to actually understand the requirement of the national education policy. Okay, so there's a huge gap between what is being dreamt of and what we can actually achieve based on the current scenario of the teaching quality of our schools and universities. Okay. Now, military cooperation. Now, Indian Navy participates in RIMPAC maritime drills. Now, Indian Navy has joined the world's largest military exercise called as RIMPAC, which is the Rim of the Pacific exercise in Hawaii. Now, 29 nations, 40 surface ships, 3 submarines, over 150 aircraft and more than 25,000 personnel are going to train and operate in and around the Hawaiian island during the exercise. So, this is one of the largest naval exercise and India is going to participate, and it is known as RIMPAC, which is of the Pacific nations. Now, social welfare and crime. 15 districts in Assam have been prone to child trafficking. Now, child trafficking has become a major problem. Now, out of Assam, 15 districts are prone. So, you can see the state of the child trafficking, the state of the children's safety, the state of the socio-economic sector of Assam. Now, Assam State Commission for Protection of Child Rights pointed out that out of 370 districts nationwide, 15 districts in Assam are prone to child trafficking in a conference which was recently held in Golaghat. So, you can see what the quality of the child status is in Assam. Now, factors contributing to child trafficking including poverty, lack of education, school dropout rates, child labor, and involvement of sex workers. Now, firstly, there is a poverty. The poverty angle, we get it. Now, lack of education, not only lack of education from the children, but lack of education among the parents. Thirdly, is a school dropout rate because once they get out of school, they need to work somewhere. And since because of being poor, many of parents, what they do is they send their children to work in some factory or work in some construction sites. So in that construction site, when many of them are prone to go out and work in such areas, then they become prone to child sex trafficking, and many of the girls are then, in lieu of getting jobs, they are sent to the outside of state, and then nobody knows where they go. They are sold to the prostitution houses and things like that. Okay, and then there's involvement of sex workers. Now, discussions mainly centered on child protection, labor rights, legal aid services, and education programs in the district. So, child protection. Now, how do you protect the child? How do you actually educate and aware the parents about the problems of the child trafficking, that how your child can be prone to a sex worker? Okay, then labor rights, then legal aid services, and education program. Now, out of these, I think legal aid service is a main impediment in all that, because a poor person is not able to approach the law as fast and quick as a rich man can, because he is not able to afford a good lawyer, and he is not, by the time he secures a justice, then it becomes too late for the father or for the children to be taken out of that hellhole. So that is the judiciary system. Since it is pending and pending, the cases have always been pending, and the cases are pending because many a times we don't have enough judges to respond to the number of cases that we register per day. So the government of India should do something about the number of judges. We have a number of lawyers, but we don't have the exact number of the judges that we need. So there is lack of judge, and that is why our justice system has been lacking in the time management of the delivery of the justice. Now, environment sector, we have low carbon emission reforms. The World Bank on Saturday approved 1.5 billion in financing for a second operation to help India, the second low carbon energy programmatic development policy operations. Now, what is this? To support reforms to boost the production of green hydrogen and electrolyzers, the critical technology needed for green hydrogen production. This operation is aligned with the government's energy security and with the World Bank's Hydrogen for Development partnership. Okay, since we are moving towards a very low carbon emission country, so we need a lot of reforms in this sector, and the World Bank has given us nearly $1.5 billion. Now, reforms are expected to at least in the production of least 450,000 metric tons of green hydrogen and 1,500 megawatts of electrolyzers per year from financial year 25 and 26 onwards. Now, on the 1st of July, we have appointment. So, General Upendra Dwivedi took charge as a 30th Chief of the Army Staff after incumbent General Manoj Pandey retired. Now, tea production. Now, types of commercial tea which are available in the market. Now, there was a small article or small write-up about the tea production, which I think it will be useful for you in case some questions on tea has been come up. Tea is commercially available mainly in three types: green, black, and oolong tea. There are three small quantities of yellow tea, white tea, and puria tea also found in the market. So I don't know about this puria tea, but I know about this yellow tea and the white tea. And then we have green, black, and the oolong tea. These are commercially grown. Now, black tea is widely used in India, and green tea is popular in China, Japan, and Taiwan. So, what our tea industry should do, because Assam's tea industry is not able to expedite the process of exports as fast as it should have done. So, we are lacking in exports a lot, and that is why tea industry in Assam is not making a lot of business, although it constitutes 55% of the production in the entire India. Now, what is happening is that since we are not able to commercialize it, because we are only sustaining on one type of tea, But now through this article what we understand is that we need to commercialize it on the different aspects of tea. Now in the market we have green tea, we have yellow tea, we have pure tea, so all these kind of teas. Now every tea has their own different health related benefits. So if you are able to commercialize these kind of tea, then our tea industry is set to make more and more exports, since it already constitutes 55% of the tea production in the whole of India. Now since black tea and green tea is very popular in India, China, Japan and Taiwan, we will be able to export more and more tea to the South China nations. Okay, now China and Taiwan mainly produce the oolong tea. Now 2nd of July, we have Myanmar situation hits Act East policy. Now situation in Myanmar remains a cause of concern for India, as there is no sign of the neighboring country becoming peaceful in the near future, and this is hampering India's efforts to proceed with the Act East policy. Now everybody of us knows, since our Act East policy we have is very ambitious project, and once we are able to communicate, once we are able to establish good economic relations with the rest of the Southeast Asian countries, so it will be a major boost for our economy, because then we will not have to be dependent on the West. We will not be in need to be dependent on Russia and other such Western countries in order to boost our economy. But the main problem for India to initiate the Act East policy is Myanmar, because we share neighbor with Myanmar, and through Myanmar we will be able to connect to rest of the Southeast Asian countries. Now the problem is, since Myanmar is not a very stable country, it is under military rule, and this military rule is in no way it is giving up its power, it is not retaining democracy. There is a lot of ethnic clashes which is going on inside Myanmar, and because of Myanmar's unstable political situation, India's Act East policy has not received that much encouragement that it should have received over the past years. Now this is an Act East policy was designed so way back, and from that time onwards we are still trying to build good relations with the rest of the Southeast Asian nations. Even with Singapore we do a lot of trade nowadays, and Singapore has actually become one of the largest trading partner of India. Recently it has become. Okay, now because what we need to explore more and more opportunities, but we are not able to explore because we share territorial boundaries with Myanmar, and we need access from Myanmar to get into the markets of the rest of the Southeast Asian countries. Now because of unstable political environment in Myanmar, India is not in a position to expedite the terms of the economic progress. Now, security sources said that the trilateral highway connecting India, Myanmar and Thailand is nearing completion, while the much talked about Kaladan multi-modal project is also in the final stage. But if the situation in Myanmar does not improve, no businessman will take the risk of sending goods to the neighboring country. Now this is the problem. Now we are making a trilateral junction where the three countries can be connected by a road, that is India, Thailand and Myanmar. It will be very easy for us to access Thailand by road, because now northeast, if we have to reach Thailand we have to go through Bengal. But if this trilateral junction is completed, then we will be able to directly fly into the Thailand. We'll be able to directly move through land and connect to Thailand, and it will be very easy for us to export goods to Thailand and other such countries. But now since Myanmar is not a very stable country, so no businessman will ever take a risk of exporting their goods via this trilateral junction. Okay, so this is a very sad situation, because India is not even responsible for such kind of political mess that Myanmar is undergoing. It was a long ago a British policy that the Britishers did something, and still Myanmar is undergoing the cause of the ethnic cleansing. Now cinema, we have documentary Headhunting to Beat Boxing to have worldwide premiere at International Film Festival at Melbourne. The film exposed the journey of Nagaland and the evolution of music across its culture and tribes. It has been directed by Rohit Gupta and produced by A.R. Rahman. Now on the 3rd of July, we have a defense cooperation, which is India Mongolia spiritually connected, says envoy at launch of joint military exercise. So we now are having a defense cooperation with Mongolia as well. Now India and Mongolia have begun a joint military exercise in the northeast of India. The exercise is named as Nomadic Elephant. Okay, this can be a one-liner question. If next year, if you are also preparing for prelims next year, then definitely. Now on the 4th of July, we have a GI tag and history, which is Soraido Maidans, all set for the GI tag. Now Soraido Moidam was actually nominated to be included as one of the UNESCO heritage site, but still we are still yet to receive that whether UNESCO has accepted it or not. But Soraido Moidam is all set to get the GI tag. Okay, now Soraido Moidam, the sacred burial mounds of the Ahom dynasty, are set to secure the coveted UNESCO World Heritage Site and status. Now I'm going to make a video on this, on the Soraido Moidam, why it was called as Moidam and why Soraido Moidam ceased to exist after a certain point of time. Because in the Ahom kingdom, you know, after maybe in the 17th century or so, when Hinduism, when the Shakti culture was introduced by Boroja Fuleshwari and other people, when Brahmin culture was introduced here, when the Shakti culture was introduced inside the Ahom kingdom, from then on the practice of burial mounds have ceased to exist. But when right after when Sukafa established the Ahom kingdoms, then we used to have the burial mounds. Okay, the Soraido Moidams, and because of this, when Hinduism was introduced, when Shakti culture was introduced inside the Ahom kingdom, this is when it created a rift between the different tribes of Assam. When many tribes, they started protesting against the Ahom monarchy, stating that this is not their culture and they are not going to accept it, and it became a major reason for the Mohammaria rebellion also. So we're going to make a very extensive video on this. I hope you like that. Okay. Next is on politics. We have the Nepal government. Politically fragile, Nepal's two largest parties on Monday night inked a power-sharing deal to form a new government to replace the ruling coalition led by Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal Prachanda. Now this will become a major problem for India. While Prachanda was more or less, he was pro-India. His party may have been a little different, but he has been some way or the other less critical of India. But the earlier government, which was led by KP Sharma Oli, the KP Sharma Oli government is mainly pro-Chinese. They do not want to deal anything. They do not share much of the spirit with India. So they are mostly pro-Chinese because they share that Maoist wala feeling. But the Prachanda government was more or less, it was very less critical of India, and they wanted to have good relations with India. But if this government will fail, and if the next government comes, and if that government becomes pro-India, then India is going to lose its neighbor. Because one by one, India has been losing its neighbor. It is almost like on the brink of failure of losing its neighbors like Maldives. With Pakistan, we generally don't have a good relation. Okay, with Myanmar, we cannot establish good relation because that government is unstable, right? And then with Sri Lanka, we have been giving them loans and everything, but still Sri Lanka is still not over the hangover of the Chinese policies. So it's still having a pro-China attitude, but still it is maintaining some way or the other a very good relation with India. But the rest of the remaining countries, let's say Bangladesh, Nepal and Bhutan. Now if Nepal government changes, then India will lose its immediate neighbor Nepal as well in the list of the good neighboring countries, and we will be left with Bangladesh and Bhutan. With Bhutan also, we are not quite sure how long the relationship will last, because considering China's activities in the Doklam Valley, and Bhutan might actually give away its good relation with India, and might adopt a very diplomatic policy or diplomatic attitude towards China, because they are very close to China, and it might succumb to the pressure of the Chinese government. But we are left with Bangladesh, and Bangladesh, as you know, Sheikh Hasina's government is pro India, so that is why we are able to make so many of deals. But if tomorrow Sheikh Hasina's government falls and there's some way or the other government, then Bangladesh is also in the risk of entering the league of the Chinese partners. Okay, then India will be left with no good neighboring neighbors. Now, peace and politics we have is peace accords. The Mizoram Peace Accord of 1986 between Government of India and the Mizoram National Front was successful in ending insurgency in Mizoram that has bled the state, that is for 20 years. So, Mizoram Peace Accord of 1986. So, this is in terms for the MNF, which is Mizoram National Front. Okay. Till date, it remains the most fruitful peace agreement in the Northeast, which has seen many much accords between the government and the ultra outfits. So, the Mizoram Peace Accord has been one of the most successful peace accords signed between the country India and the Northeast outfits. So, we used to have a lot of outfits. Let's say we used to have Alpha in Assam, then in the Mizoram we used to have MNF. In Nagaland also we used to have NSCN. So these are some of the revolutionary outfits and secessionist outfits. So they used to demand a separate state for themselves, a separate country for themselves. But till now, one of the most successful deals of the government of India with that of the revolutionary outfits has always been the MNF. As for the Mizo Peace Accord, which marked its 38th anniversary on June 30 as Remnani, which is called as a peace day, there are factors that have had a bearing on its success, not the least being the unambiguous stand of the Mizos. Mizoram is largely a close-knit homogeneous society, unlike the other Northeast states, over their rights and privileges. Now also exemplary was the role of rebel L Denga, the founder president of the MNF, who pushed for a peaceful resolution of the Mizo conflict through the steadfast leadership. So we will make a video on the MNF also, and also on L Denga. So it will be live or it will come to the channel very soon. So I hope you will like it. Next, we have agriculture. Initiative of double cropping gets rolling in Karbi Anglong. Now, Krishi Vigyan Kendra Karbi Anglong has launched a double cropping program in Difu with a focus on training and demonstrating direct seeded rice of nursery preparation and nutrient management in paddy cultivation, and this is done to double the paddy production. On the 5th of July, Guwahati Commerce College to represent state at the Eco National Summit. So Eco Summit, which is Environment Conservation Heroes National Summit. Now, Project Anubhushan by Guwahati Commerce College aims to uplift the slum areas nearby Guwahati railway station by empowering residents, especially women, with sustainable livelihoods. They collect cloth waste from local business, provide eco-friendly workshops on making traditional Assamese jewelry, and offer business trainings. Now, on the environment, we have Protect Rainforest. The move of the state government and Coal India Limited authorities to conduct joint operations every fortnight to curb illegal mining is very much welcome. What begs the question is, what had prevented the authorities to have such a mechanism to stop rampant illegal coal mining in the biodiversity rich Dihing Patkai all these years? So all these years we have already known that a coal mining, many times there was illegal coal mining in the Dihing Patkai, but now the government has come up with a policy to stop it. So all these years what the government was doing, I don't know. So this is the question which is being raised. Now, given that Coal India is the lone authorized agency to extract coal in the area, identifying the illegal mining area should have been the rather simple exercise. So only one agency is authorized to mine coal, and that is Coal India Limited. Okay, other than that, there were a lot of illegal minings which were taken up by local contractors, and they used to do all these things, and these are actually illegal. And because of the illegal mining, lot of coal mining have happened, and which has actually hampered the climate of the region. Okay, so these were the news that we had from 29 to the 5th of July, and we will be having a session every day for the answer writing. and I hope till 26 your exam we will be able to produce good number of answers for you to practice. And please join our group, the link is in the description. Okay.